AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from downtown Baton Rouge.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. I'm Matt.
Love you, Matt.
Paul O'Neill.
Chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
You, sir. Anne Murray.
Murray, present.
We're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Oh, by the way, it's a hump day.
It's hump day.
Had a guy text the show.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
An adult.
Hump day.
Said he loves the Humpty Bump.
It's hump day.
Leaves meetings early all the time so he can be in the car for the Humpty Bump.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
I forgot his name.
Hump day.
It was a couple weeks ago.
It's hump day.
I just remembered.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Shout out to that guy.
Hump day.
Ole Miss is starting their backup,
It's hump day.
who might be better than their starter.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Either way, he's got a tough ask on Saturday. Come on, Muse.
It's hump day.
Saints are a giant underdog.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Biggest in 50 years.
Hump day.
Historically bad
It's hump day.
for an historically bad franchise.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Impressive.
Hump day.
We got Matt Perino coming up.
It's hump day.
He covers the Bills.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
We got Russ Mitchell in hour 3.
Hump day.
CD Deuce got cut.
It's hump day.
Russell Wilson's done.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Should the Saints pursue him?
Hump day.
I got thoughts.
It's hump day.
You'll find out
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
after the break.
Hump day.
Well, not really after this break, but coming up.
It's hump day.
All right, let's get going here. We got a ton to do here as we push off from the dock on a busy day here. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
All right, as LSU and Ole Miss steamroll toward the weekend, the SEC Coaches Teleconference was on Wednesday. Lane Kiffin and Brian Kelly were both on it. Lane Kiffin was asked if he was ready to announce a starting quarterback. Here's what he said.
That could go through at least longer than a day. Both guys did great today. I would always take in everything into consideration, so we'll see as we get closer.
Okay, see as we get closer. Well. That's not what a bunch of reporters said. Chris Lowe, Pete Nakos, Pete Thamel, they've all got it that Ole Miss will, in fact, start Trindad Chambliss at quarterback Saturday against LSU. This will be his third consecutive start. A Chambliss from Division II Ferris State. He's a senior, transferred to Ole Miss this year. Austin Simmons nicked his ankle. He's got an ankle against Kentucky. So the next week against Arkansas, Chambliss started. And then Chambliss started last week against Tulane, played pretty well. So much so that they're in rebel country. Lots of people are clamoring for Chambliss to be the guy. My, how quickly they can turn on you. How quickly they can adopt a guy after he beats a horrendous Arkansas team and Tulane. Whatever. We'll see how it all goes. Let me give you some of the deets first on Trindad Chambliss and how this has all played out with Ole Miss and Austin Simmons and Trindad Chambliss. If you remember, Simmons is the guy. Now, he's a big-time athlete, okay? 6'4", 215. And he's the guy last year. Remember, Ole Miss was playing Georgia. And Ole Miss ended up wiping the floor with Georgia last year. But early in that game, Jackson Dart went out with injury. Austin Simmons goes in, and the whole collective college football world, yours truly included, is going, oh, boy, here we go. Backup quarterback against Georgia. This is about to get ugly. And what happened? Boom, boom, boom. Simmons right down the field, touchdown. We're going, who the hell is this guy? Well, Jackson Dart didn't play in the bowl game. Simmons balled out in the bowl game. And so we go to SEC Media Days, and everybody's gaga over Austin Simmons. He's 19 years old. He's already graduated college, blah, 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 whatever. Lo and behold, it actually is hard to play quarterback at the major college level and in the SEC when you don't have experience. Sounds like we've been talking about that all summer as everyone tried to hype all these quarterbacks. So Simmons, through 2 games, had 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Simmons gets hurt. Chambliss plays against Arkansas, and he went out there and played really well in the Arkansas game. It was a 41-35 win for the Rebs. Chambliss on the day threw for 353. He ran for a couple of touchdowns. So they go into last week against Tulane, and he throws for 300, runs for 112, and all of a sudden people are going, man, Chambliss feels like he's a better fit for Lane Kiffin's offense than Austin Simmons. Never mind the fact that Simmons came in a pinch a year ago against Georgia and went right down the field. Anyway, all that to say, Chambliss it appears, is going to get the start against LSU. My theory here, I have a theory here on Chambliss that I want to talk about. First, Brian Kelly was asked on Monday, if you remember this, about preparing for 2 quarterbacks because LSU had to do that against Southeastern. Now, it's laughable that it was Southeastern, but they had to prepare for 2 quarterbacks last week. So he was asked, hey, is preparing for 2 quarterbacks against Southeastern to help you this week? Listen to what he said.
In some instances, it would be like Texas A&M last year. Those are 2 different quarterbacks. One was a pro-style quarterback, and one was certainly a dual threat that could run zone reads, do things of that nature. And it changes you dramatically. This week, both these quarterbacks are similar. And now, they have different skill sets in terms of but they can run the same offense with both of these players. So I'm not saying it's easier. It's hard, right? You've got 2 really good players, but it's not as that one is a pro-style quarterback and is not going to run, and the other one is simply a dual threat. They're both very similar.
I think we understand what he means there. That a year ago against Texas A&M, you're prepared for Connor Wegman. A year ago against A&M, you're prepared for Connor Wegman. You have him in a chokehold. You're leading by double digits. They go to Marcel Reed. Boom. Reed's running ability changed the whole dynamic of that game. LSU wasn't ready for that inexplicably, and they just weren't very good defense a year ago. This, regardless if it's Simmons or Chambliss, while they could do things differently, they're still going to function similarly within the offense, is what Brian Kelly is saying there. Lane Kiffin, after the game Saturday against Tulane, where Ole Miss won in a romp over the Green Wave, 45-10, where Chambliss was very good. Talked about, first of all, he was asked if Austin Simmons was available in that game, and then talked about what he liked about Chambliss.
Austin was available today, yep. I thought Trindad played great. I loved the most important thing, not turning the ball over 2 weeks in a row, because if you do that, you win a lot of games if you take care of the ball. And first offense didn't turn it over back-to-back weeks. And he played really clean, not balls on the ground, and 1 sack. So I think we had 1 last week. So back-to-back weeks, when you just don't have negative plays, he carries the ball 14 times, only loses 2 yards, only has the 1 sack. Everything else is positive, and you rush for 112. So 419 total in 3.5 quarters is really good.
Pretty good day. Pretty good day against Tulane. I have a theory I told you that I'd like to share with you. And my theory is about Trindad Chambliss. And I think that so far he's been outstanding. That is objectively true. But he played at Division II Ferris State. I think we can all agree that wherever in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Trindad Chambliss played high school football, and then at Division II Ferris State, he did not see the caliber of defense he's going to see on Saturday. I think that's fair to say. Transfers to Ole Miss. He gets his first action against Arkansas. This is an Arkansas defense that's 83rd in the country right now in total defense, and they are objectively poo-poo. They just blew an 18-point lead to Memphis, okay? So they got going against the terrible Arkansas D. Great. Then he gets to play Tulane, which was completely outmanned. Tulane's a good G6 school, but you see the difference between a G6 and a Power 4 program on display there. I'm not talking about bottom feeders like Duke and Northwestern. I'm talking about legitimate teams that have NFL players on it. You saw the difference there. Now, you got yourself feeling pretty good, but you're going to take on an LSU team with All-America caliber players at every level of your defense. NFL players at every level of the defense. Blake Baker with his exotic pressure schemes that Cade Klubnik, who's a fifth-year starter, a fifth-year senior, 3-year starter at Clemson, was confused by what Blake Baker's doing. Now you got a guy from Division II Ferris State. How do you think that's going to go for him? I think Trindad Chambliss is walking into something the likes of which he has literally never seen. And the benefit for LSU, if you go back to what Brian Kelly was talking about, if you look at the Marcel Reed comp from a year ago, where LSU clearly was not ready, had not repped that. Now they got 2 weeks of game film on Trindad Chambliss. You had 2 weeks of game film to look at, dissect, look at tendencies, strengths, weaknesses. It's a major benefit for LSU facing Chambliss in this situation, as opposed to if they had to do it 2 weeks ago. The closer we get to this game, the more bullish I am on LSU in this game. I just do not think Ole Miss's defense is any good. I do not think a Division II transfer at quarterback facing a real defense for the first time is going to go well. All those pros Ole Miss had on the team a year ago, they're all now in the NFL. I just do not think that this is a game where Ole Miss is going to match LSU blow for blow. And maybe Trindad Chambliss on this stage proves me wrong. But like I've said about Arch Manning, like I said about Austin Simmons, like I said about DJ Lagway, like I said about all the quarterbacks we talked about this offseason who had yet to do it and prove it, I'm going to have to see Trindad Chambliss prove it on a big-time stage against an elite, talented defense like LSU. If he does it, I'll tip my cap, come back here on Monday, I'll say I was wrong. But I'm telling you, he wasn't seeing Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks and Patrick Payton and A.J. Halsey and Mansour Delane. He wasn't seeing them dudes at Ferris State. I know that much for sure. All right, it's After Further Review. Show Up and Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with a great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU. Hey, if you're hitting the road to Oxford, don't buy your beer in Mississippi. We'll give them the tax money. Buy it here in Louisiana before you go. Make sure you get the Bud Light cans and aluminum bottles. The officially licensed 12-ounce cans, 16-ounce bottles, the white can, which is an ode, a hat tip to LSU's white jerseys. They're traditionally wearing white at home. Make sure you pick up the delicious refreshment, ice-cold Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of the LSU Tigers. All right, y'all, it is After Further Review. Glad you're hanging out with us here. Waiting on the Saints' attendance for practice today. When we have that, we'll certainly pass it along to you as well. And the Saints are a gigantic underdog this weekend in Buffalo, as you know. But we have some context on that we'll get to. I want to remind you about Shaw Bill's Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com. With locations all over South Louisiana, you're never far from a Shaw Bill's location. If you're in the market for tires, I understand buying tires is not fun. Nobody wants to spend that money on tires. We would all rather spend it on vacations or tickets, premium tickets to a game or a concert. Nobody wants to buy tires. So that's why Shaw Bills understands. They're going to give you the best tires on the road at the cheapest price possible. They'll work together with the manufacturer's offer, their own in-house offer. Remember, you'll always save when you use your Shaw Bills credit card, so you can ask about that. Or go to the website, hit the promotions tab at the top, and you'll see all of the specials that they have. ShawBillsTire.com, ShawBillsTire.com. When you hit the promotions tab, you can see all the promotions that they have, ShawBillsTire.com. And, of course, they'll treat you like family. So, you need to schedule service. They can take care of anything you got. Oil change, tire rotations, brake checks, alignments, all of it. They do it all at Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com. Shaw Bills. We keep you rolling. All right, quick break. Come back. Talk some Saints, some Houdat, Saints attendance and context on just how big of a dog they are at Buffalo. Don't you move. It's AFR.
After Further Review. After Further Review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
I think he's doing a really good job. I really do. You can see his personality and his team and the way they play. First two games in particular, you know, this last game got away from him overall. The first two games, it's a one-possession game. They've got the ball and a chance to win the game. So I think he's off to a great start. Seems to be well prepared for the job.
That's Bills head coach Sean McDermott being very kind about Kellen Moore and his start to his tenure in New Orleans, where the Saints are 0-3, and as he mentioned, this weekend got away from him, but maybe in the first 2 weeks there were some good things to like and to see. I guess when you look at a guy like McDermott, you could look at his time there in Buffalo, but his first season with the Bills was 2017. And they went 9-7 that year and made the playoffs. As a matter of fact, Buffalo's made the playoffs every year that McDermott has been the coach, except for 2018, which was his second season. So he had some immediate success. And typically when you are inheriting a situation as a new head coach, you don't always step into the best situation, but it helps when you get your franchise quarterback. There is just a little piece of dubious history here for the New Orleans Saints as they get set to take on the Buffalo Bills. Of course, the Saints are coming off this blowout loss against Seattle. And they go to Buffalo, and by now you've seen, look, Buffalo might be the best team in the NFL. They're a 16.5 point. Buffalo's a 16.5 point favorite. That is the largest point spread so far this year in the NFL. And it's tied for the 9th largest point spread since the start of the 2020 season. Sometimes, look, COVID was weird because, with the COVID testing, and sometimes you had, like the Saints against the Dolphins, you had like entire rosters that were just unavailable because of COVID tests. But sometimes at the end of seasons, when you get to week like 17 and 18 and teams are either in the playoffs, they're done, you might see teams rest starters. And so you will see inflated point spread sometimes in week like 17 and 18. But this is the largest point spread of the season so far in the NFL. Buffalo's favored by 16.5 against New Orleans. If you're looking for context, those games from the other 8 games from 2020 to now, only one of the underdogs won the game. The Jets beat the Rams in 2020 as a 17-point underdog. 6 of the other 7 underdogs have failed to cover, meaning the team that was the team that was favored by 16.5 or more, the team that was favored won and covered that number. I mean, it was still a blowout, even despite the massive number. Sometimes Vegas just doesn't know how to properly set lines like this when you're talking about teams that are this bad. And unfortunately for New Orleans, that's kind of where they fall right now. By the way, so Pro Football Reference had this little tidbit. This point spread, this 6.5 point spread, with the Saints being a 16.5 point underdog against Buffalo. This is the biggest the Saints have been an underdog since week 9 of the 1975 season. They were a 16.5 point underdog against the Vikings, and they ended up losing 20-7. They were also an 18 point underdog the week prior against the Raiders and lost 48-10. So in consecutive weeks, they were underdogs by 18 and then 16.5. That was back in 1975. So it's been 50 years. 50, half a century, 50 years since the New Orleans Saints were this big of an underdog in a football game. And y'all, for a franchise that is historically bad, this is historically bad, which is a mouthful. I mean, sometimes we forget. Like, we just lived through this golden era of Peyton Breeze, but everything outside of that has largely been a steaming pile of dung. The New Orleans Saints are one of the worst franchises in the history of North American professional sports. They were founded in 1967. It took them 20 years to make the playoffs. 1987. That also happened to be the first winning season in 20 years. 2 decades to have a winning season and make the playoffs. They didn't win a playoff game for 33 years. It was the year 2000 when Hakeem dropped the ball. It was a dozen years till they had a non-losing season. They went 8-8 in 1979. By the way, then they followed that up in 1980 with a 1-15 record, which was the worst in the history of the franchise. Saints have won 5 games or fewer 19 times in the franchise history. I mean, this is historically an historically bad franchise. And now you are the biggest underdog you've been in 50 years. Mickey Loomis should be very proud of what he's built and the product that he's put out on the field. One of the other things that Sean McDermott talked about when he met with reporters was the home field advantage they have there in Buffalo, which has been really impressive.
We take a lot of pride in defending our dirt. There's no other way to really say it. And these guys put a lot of time and blood, sweat, and tears into their jobs every day, their family sacrifice, and playing well at home is a big part of that, is defending what we take a lot of pride in, which is our fan base and how hard we work. And so let's also be honest, our fans create an environment. That 12th man is real, and we'll need them again this week. This offense we're going to play runs a lot of no huddle, and I just watched them try and get that done against Seattle, and I know our fans are the best in the NFL for a reason.
All right, that's Sean McDermott as the Saints head up to Buffalo to take on maybe the best team in the NFL in the Bills in what's going to be a brutal environment for New Orleans to try to go get the first win of the season. Should the Saints try to reunite with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? I have some thoughts on that. I'll tell you in just a second. Let me remind you about Arco Power Systems. Arco Power Systems, ARCCO, Arco Power Systems. That's arco.com. When we talk about Arco, we're talking about protecting your business with standby generator power. This is Generac Industrial Power. These are industrial generators. This is not for your home. This is for your business. These are for grocery stores, gas stations, banks, hospitals, schools, industrial facilities. It doesn't matter if you have a retail shop, if you're an apartment complex. If you need an option when the power goes out so your business can stay online, Arco Power Systems provides that. Home base is right here in Baton Rouge on Airline Highway, but it's so impressive how much they've grown. They serve as far west as San Antonio, as far east as Mobile, office coming in Little Rock, office in Dallas, Houston, everywhere. So if you own a business, no matter where you're listening or watching in that footprint, you own a business and you need backup generator power, either a permanent solution installed, standby rental options, or servicing your standby generator. You want Arco Power Systems, ARCCO, arco.com, arco.com. All right, it's after further review. Surprised to see this. Surprised, to say the very least. The Houston Texans traded a former first-round pick, Kenyon Green, their left guard, to the Philadelphia Eagles back in March for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Remember, Gardner-Johnson was a ball hawk for Philadelphia on their run to the Super Bowl. After Gardner-Johnson was in New Orleans, went to Detroit, then to Philly, and was a big part of their Super Bowl run. Well, on Tuesday, the Houston Texans released C.J. Gardner-Johnson 3 games into the season. Houston trades a former first-round pick, Kenyon Green, a left guard, to Philly in March for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And my goodness, 3 games in, they're cutting bait. Now, listen, I don't cover the Texans on a day-to-day basis. I don't really care what's going on in Houston. What I know is they're 0-3, and apparently C.J. Gardner-Johnson struggled to pick up some of DeMeco Ryans' system. They've had busts. He has been responsible for busts in all 3 games that have led to touchdowns. And what's really rubbed a lot of teammates wrong, apparently, is that he's been finger-pointing instead of taking ownership for his mistakes. And so 3 games into this season, the Texans say, no Moss, cut bait, get him out of here. Ian Rappaport was on the Insiders on the NFL Network and gave a little insight here.
they released C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Remember, they traded for him from the Philadelphia Eagles in kind of a complicated trade, pick swap early in the year, hoped he would hold down the back end of the defense. Best thing I can say, Tom, this relationship ran its course as it always seems to with C.J. G.J. The Texans moved on earlier today.
I mean, to say the relationship has run its course after 3 games is astonishing. And I know I've been hit a little bit today with Saints fans asking, should New Orleans pursue Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and bring him back to the Saints? In a simple, plain, as plainly as I can put this, no. Absolutely not. Now listen, I loved the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson draft pick when the Saints took him out of Florida. And we talked about it then, and I've repeated it so many times throughout his NFL career. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is the guy that you hate when he's on the other team and you love when he's on your team. I mean, he once pissed off Michael Thomas so much that Thomas slugged him at practice. Now, Thomas is also a jerk, but he was still incited. That's what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is. He's a gnat. He's a nuisance. And he gets under people's skin. You love it when he's on your team, unless and until things are going badly and it becomes a negative thing internally, which clearly that's what was happening in Houston, and they said enough. DeMeco Ryans is valuing culture in his locker room more than what could be a good player, even one that they traded a valuable asset for just a few months ago. They recognized it was going badly. They cut bait. Okay. When I look at New Orleans, this is very simple. Now, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, right, he was released. So he's a free agent. He's free to sign with whoever he wants. First of all, ain't no way in hell he's signing with the New Orleans Saints. Saints are 0-3, and they're going nowhere fast. That's a guy that just played in Philly for a Super Bowl. The Eagles would be stupid not to re-sign him. They win. They have good culture. He fit in there last year, was a really good player, knows their defense. Everybody knows the story. The Eagles should be the most obvious choice here. But I also understand why, if you're a Saints fan, you're asking the questions, because this is a guy you drafted. But this is also a guy that you chose to ship away, despite the value you got in a day 2 pick who became a starter for you. A day 3 pick who became a starter for you, and a very good one. And right now, the reality is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on the New Orleans Saints doesn't affect your win total one lick. You don't win one more game with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson than you would without him. So I have to ask the question, am I more interested in seeing a young guy like Jonas Sanker get reps and continue to develop, or bringing in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who might make you a little bit better on the back end, but not really going to affect your win total? Give me Jonas Sanker. And maybe more importantly even than that is culture. You got a rookie head coach who's 37 years old, who's struggling out the gate. They just had an embarrassing loss. You have blowhards like me yelling about him, whether or not these guys actually respect him. I believe they like him. I don't know if they respect him. That remains to be seen, especially considering all the undisciplined play that continues to persist and they can't seem to fix it. That calls that into question for me. And I'm sure a lot of other people as well. Do you really want to introduce Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, that element, that variable, into your locker room where he may do the same things in New Orleans that clearly he was doing in Houston that had them pissed off during an 0-3 start that caused them to cut him, despite the fact that they sent a former first-round pick to Philly to get him back in March? No. No. If this was a situation where New Orleans was a contender and you felt like, man, that's the one little missing piece, you really need someone who can get you some turnovers in the secondary, I'd go in a heartbeat. I'll take the risk because you got good veteran players, good culture. You don't have that. You don't have established culture within the organization right now under Kellen Moore. You're not a good team. You're not competing for anything of significance. I'd rather see a young guy like Sanker get those reps. I understand asking the question, because if you're doing your job, meaning the front office, you should ask that question about every player at every position. Can that person make my team better? But that is a layered, nuanced question for the New Orleans Saints right now. And the answer with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is absolutely, positively, undeniably a big fat no. That ship has sailed, and if he's smart, he'll end up back in Philadelphia. All right, it's after further review. We'll knock out a quick break and go around the SEC. It's AFR.
AFR.
GLO, glowresources.com, complete employer solutions. That's where you find them at Glow Resources, glowresources.com, glowresources.com. You see, at Glow Resources, they do one thing. They help you find the people, permanent solutions in your business to make you more efficient. If in this hiring market, which has been really a struggle for so many businesses post-COVID, if you're in that challenge space, let Glow Resources help. Call Glow Resources, log on to the website. They use their giant network to find you the best people for whatever job you have available. This is not a temp staffing agency. They're helping you find permanent employee solutions. It doesn't matter where your business is or where you do business. Glow Resources can help. So check them out online at GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com, complete employer solutions.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
If Ole Miss wins this game, it should be undefeated heading into back-to-back games against Georgia and Oklahoma. These are the three most difficult games. They could go 2-1 against those opponents. They should be in the college football playoff. For LSU, they need this because that win against Clemson is not looking so great anymore.
It's Heather Dinich on Get Up earlier today. It's interesting. I've done quite a bit of media this week with some Ole Miss folks. Buddy Neil McCready, I was on his podcast. That's live right now. I think I tweeted the link out earlier. Recorded the crossover episode with Stephen Willis from Locked On Ole Miss earlier today. It'll publish tomorrow. By the way, thanks to everybody who has watched, listened to Locked On LSU. Pretty incredible. If you're not familiar, Locked On LSU, it's a daily LSU podcast that I do, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And last month, Locked On LSU, for the first time since I took the podcast over last June, we were number one in the college network, and I think number 4 or 5 overall in the entire Locked On network across all sports. So a baseball national championship followed up by pretty exciting football start to the season, and win over Clemson certainly will buoy you. So thanks to everybody who listens to or watches Locked On LSU. But I recorded with Stephen Willis from Locked On Ole Miss earlier today for our crossover episode, and they are the narrative there at Ole Miss is if they win this game against LSU, they think Ole Miss is a playoff. The schedule shapes up for them to be a playoff team. I could see that certainly because after LSU, they get an open date then Washington State in Oxford, so they should win that game, right? So if they beat LSU, they'd be 5-0. They beat Washington State, most likely they're 6-0. But then you have back-to-back road conference games against Georgia, Oklahoma. Okay. Even if you lose those two, now you're 6-2, and the final 4 in November are South Carolina, Citadel, Florida at Mississippi State. Now they would likely be favored in all of those games, but I'd like to remind you that this is an Ole Miss team coached by Lane Kiffin, who a year ago, with arguably the most talented roster in college football, right there with Ohio State, lost to Kentucky, which was their only league win. Lost at LSU, a game they had no business losing. And then lost at Florida because Lane Kiffin lost his brain and 3 times in the red zone decided to hand the ball to a fat defensive lineman on 4th down plays instead of kicking field goals, which would have won him the game. I don't believe that Lane Kiffin's getting out of this unscathed. By the way, I also don't think Ole Miss is winning on Saturday. I think LSU is going to win and win comfortably on Saturday. So this conversation is going to be moot. I think Ole Miss is going to lose to LSU. I think they're going to lose at Georgia, at Oklahoma, provided John Mateer's back. And they'll probably drop one of those down the stretch as well. Don't think Florida's not going to rise up and beat somebody. They got enough talent on that team to beat somebody. It might well beat Ole Miss. Anyway, that's just file that away. That's the narrative there, is they feel like they beat LSU. They're going to be a playoff team no matter what. Jordan Rogers also was on Get Up. He will not be on the call this weekend. It'll be Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy, Molly McGrath again, which, by the way, I get the email from ESPN with, I get the email from ESPN with all the announcer assignments. And so I tweeted out on Monday who's going to be on the call for the LSU games. And the reaction, the vitriol from LSU fans about that booth really surprises me. Like, I get McElroy was a Bama guy, so a lot of people don't like him for that reason, but give me Sean McDonough over any other play-by-play man on ABC ESPN. Like, Joe Tessitore is a puke fest. Who else am I missing? Fowler, Fowler's the greatest game day host. Like, he's perfect for that job. He's not a great play-by-play man. I love Chris Fowler. I just don't think he's great at play-by-play. McDonough's awesome. And McElroy's actually a really good analyst as well. And Molly McGrath's fantastic. Like, I think that's, please give me that. What I would love to see is Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelik on every broadcast. But sans that, give me McDonough, McElroy, and Molly McGrath. The 3 M's. McDonough, McElroy. How about that? 3 M's. Give me that. How about that? Anyway, here was Jordan Rogers on what he's watching for LSU Ole Miss.
Yeah, don't sleep on Ole Miss quarterback Trindad Chambliss. He started the season as the backup. He was a D2 quarterback last year, took them to the national championship. Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator, found him on Twitter. Literally, scrolling on Twitter, found him. Now he has 400 yards in back-to-back games. He's incredibly dual threat. He's an incredible athlete. Watch the matchup with Harold Perkins and LSU on the other side. This is an opportunistic defense. Is playing man coverage at a high level. Turnovers for Chambliss is going to be the difference. I think LSU gets it done.
Glad to hear Jordan say that. I was listening to Hester and Flynn this morning. They said point blank, look, you're either going to have Perkins or Weeks spying Chambliss at all times. You have lockdown corners on the outside, and they don't have a dynamic receiver like they did a year ago in Trey Harris. And their running game isn't dynamic either, and you've got a great defensive front seven. I just don't see it. I know Ole Miss is favored. I don't see it. There's something glaring that I'm missing. And I think that this is odds makers and other people just not catching up yet on how good LSU's defense is. And so I keep telling you, take the under in all these games. They just have not adjusted accordingly and appropriately for how good the LSU defense is. You go to Oxford and you put Lane Kiffin's offense in a chokehold, I think that starts to change. All right, it's after further review. Our Hump Day shows are brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. We do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Florida Gators.
Billy Napier has addressed DJ Lagway's latest injury and has shut down speculation that Lagway might opt out. Said he got stepped on during the game. They put a boot on him, no issue. He practiced. He's 100%, all that good stuff. So when Napier was asked about Lagway potentially opting out, he said, quote, "It's comical. The kid has been back in here since Sunday working his butt off." So Lagway, apparently for now, healthy and not going anywhere.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Jamarian Latham suffered a neck injury in practice. He was evaluated at a hospital in Birmingham after practice on Tuesday. Kalen DeBoer said in a statement that Latham had full feeling and motion in his extremities, which is the great news. Latham's a 6-year senior from the state of Alabama. He started the opener against Florida State and then left because of a lower body injury then and didn't play against ULM or Wisconsin. So we'll give you updates on that as we have it.
The Auburn Tigers.
Wide receiver Horatio Fields broke his foot in practice. Hugh Freeze made the announcement on the teleconference. He will be out indefinitely after having foot surgery. He's a Wake Forest transfer, 12 catches for 106 yards and a score this year. In his absence, apparently Hugh Freeze said they'll look to sophomore Perry Thompson to step up. Auburn is at Texas A&M this week.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Arkansas lost 2026 tight end commitment Javion Martin, 6'4", 250-pounder. Had committed to Arkansas back in May, but he has reopened his commitment. He's a 3-star out of the state of Texas.
The Vanderbilt Commodores.
And on the hardwood, 4-star point guard Anthony Brown out of D.C. has committed to Vandy, 6'1", 160. Picked the Commodores over Maryland, Virginia, Villanova, Mississippi State, and others. All right, there you have it. That is Around the SEC. We're brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Windows door siding. Oh, yeah. They do shutters as well. It's Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Energy-efficient replacement windows, beautiful entry doors, hardy plank vinyl siding. They do it all, but as Brandon will tell you all the time, their number one product is customer satisfaction. They just will not stop until you are thrilled. They will not leave until the job is done right and you are thrilled. It's Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com. Have a conversation with anyone within that organization, and you will understand the expectation, the standard that Brandon Holly has set. Because Brandon says, look, it's not just about selling windows. That company is about his reputation. It's about doing right by people, and that matters. That's integrity. That's ethics. That's what they have there at Relief Windows. Reliefwindows.com, reliefwindows.com. Okay, y'all, it is after further review. Now, let me knock out a quick break. Saints are off the practice field today. Just real quickly, in a dozen minutes, about 13 minutes after SportsCenter, we're going to get to a reaction to the SEC opponent schedule coming out. Saints are off the practice field. I got a Chase Young update. We'll give it to you next on AFR.
AFR.
Hump Day shows are brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. I just want to remind you about all the many different services that they offer at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Yes, they do ED treatments. Not just pills. They have many different treatments. So if you've tried something that hasn't worked, try something else. They've got options at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Hormone replacement therapy. As we age, every one of us, men, women, our body produces less of the hormones that contribute to how we feel. You can safely, affordably supplement to get to healthy levels. You want to feel like you did when you were younger? Hormone replacement therapy could be the option. They also have other non-pharmaceutical options to help with so many different things like anxiety or libido or muscle growth or recovery from tissue repair from tissue injuries or surgeries. Learn more about how you can live your best life. yourgoodwood.com.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Saints are off the practice field here on this Wednesday as they begin their preparation for their trip to Buffalo to take on the Bills. And unfortunately, it's not great news for the New Orleans Saints. Chase Young was absent again here to start practice here starting week 4. Remember, Tuesday's an off day in the NFL, so Wednesday today was the first practice day. We'll get the official injury report later. But again, if you're not present, then clearly you didn't practice. So he'll be a DNP today as he continues to recover from this calf injury. You know, I can't help but think of two things, how this has all kind of played out. You know, after the initial injury, I know it was Nick Underhill who tweeted that Young had passed by in the locker room and was very boisterous, insisting that this was not a serious deal. Well, you've missed 3 games, and now it looks like you're going into this week with that very much in question. That's one piece of this, is how forthcoming was Chase Young then? I don't know, and I'm not trying to insinuate that he was lying or not being truthful. I believe that every competitor wants to be on the field, so please don't misunderstand me as I say that. But I think there's also a responsibility you have to be truthful and forthcoming. And maybe he truly believed that he was going to be close to returning. But the other side of it is, as for the New Orleans Saints, there has to be an understanding of the health and opportunity these players have, because it's why you have the short-term IR designation. You could have put Chase Young on short-term IR and added another player to your active roster without having to cut him. Like you could have added someone to your roster essentially penalty-free for the first 4 weeks. You know, if Chase Young misses the game against Buffalo on Sunday, then you will look back in hindsight and say the Saints screwed this up, because you would have had an opportunity to put Chase Young on short-term IR, add someone to the roster for these 4 weeks, and then when Chase Young was healthy, get him back on the field. So this is shaping up to be a really big miss. Now, hopefully he gets healthier as they move throughout the week, and he's able to play this weekend, but that still remains to be seen. You can read that full report over at LouisianaSports.net. Again, everything always free over at LouisianaSports.net. We'll have the official injury report later, but Ross Jackson did note that the 4 players that did not practice, Chase Young, Dylan Radins, Hunter Deckers, and Cedric Wilson. He also notes that Taliesin Fuaga and Trey Palmer returned to practice, which was good to see. And Devon Vele was there for stretch, but didn't participate in individual drills. Again, we'll wait for the full injury report to see where things stand with all those guys. We'll get you an update a little bit later in the show when we have their official injury designations. All right, let's react to the SEC schedule, which was released on Wednesday night.
AFR.
Nope, it was released on Tuesday night because today's Wednesday, and it was last night. We're brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Gents, if you're thinking of popping the question, and look, we're getting close, right? It's September the 24th. A lot of you out there might be thinking, there's romanticizing out there, thinking of popping the question around the holiday season, right? Well, this is about the time you're going to start your search. You're going to start looking at rings, learning about different cuts of diamonds, clarity, size, all that sort of stuff. If you have those questions, go to Lee Michaels. Their friendly staff will help. No matter your budget, you'll always get the Lee Michaels experience. Thrill her with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Start online, lmfj.com.